Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're embarking on a genuinely fascinating journey through one of humanity's absolute greatest inventions. We're going to trace the entire history of money, starting from the gritty day-to-day reality of ancient human survival all the way to the totally invisible abstraction of modern digital bytes. It's just an incredible story of problem-solving, continuous innovation, and ultimately a story about human connection. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever actually stopped to ask yourself, what is money? I mean, really. To understand the answer to that question, we have to transport ourselves way, way back, thousands of years. You see, before money ever existed, humans had a very, very different way of trading and interacting just to get what they needed to survive. Section 1, the problem with barter. Direct exchange flaws.
So, thousands of years ago, early people survived purely by hunting, farming, and making their own tools. But naturally, you couldn't make or hunt absolutely everything yourself, right? If you needed something you didn't have, you had to exchange goods directly with another person. We call this system barter. For instance, a farmer might trade their surplus grain to a blacksmith for tools, or, a fisherman might exchange a fresh catch for some warm clothing. Sounds pretty straightforward, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates the major flaw of the barter system. For this to actually work, both people had to want exactly what the other person had at the exact same time. Think about it. A farmer with wheat needed to find someone who not only wanted that wheat, but also had the exact item the farmer desperately needed right then. It was a massive, frustrating coordination problem. Section 2, Finding Common Value. Early Exchange Mediums. Well, as human communities grew larger and trade expanded, that direct matching system became far too slow and complicated. People urgently needed something that everyone could just agree had value. And that brings us to the very first forms of money. Ancient civilizations started using valuable, tangible objects as a medium of exchange. Things like shells, salt, cattle, and eventually pieces of metal. Why? Because they were vastly easier to trade, since a large majority of people already accepted that they were valuable. Then, we hit a major historical milestone around 3,000 years ago. Ancient Mesopotamian civilizations actually started using silver as a standardized way to measure value during trade. This was a massive leap forward. I mean, humanity was finally stepping away from trading bulky livestock and easily ruined goods like salt and moving toward a standardized, highly durable measure of wealth. Section 3, the invention of coins, official minted currency. While standardized silver was a huge improvement, the next evolutionary leap was the creation of official currency. Let's move to and see how this builds across our timeline. Following the Mesopotamian use of silver, we reach the 7th century BCE. The ancient kingdom of Lydia produced some of the very first official coins made from precious metals. And that incredible innovation eventually paves the way for the Chinese paper money of the Tang and Song dynasties. So why did those Lydian metal coins catch on so fast? Well, they were far easier to carry than a herd of cattle or chunks of bulk silver. They were significantly harder to fake, and crucially, they had a guaranteed value stamped directly onto them by rulers. Because of these specific benefits, as empires expanded, coins spread rapidly across the world and became the undisputed main form of payment. But imagine the absolute comic frustration of this new system for a second. How do you buy something large, like a horse or a plot of land, if your pockets are literally too heavy for you to even walk to the market? Talk about the weight of wealth, right? Carrying massive amounts of metal for large transactions became incredibly difficult, cumbersome, and honestly pretty dangerous. Section 4, the shift to paper. Solving the weight issue. To solve that heavy metal problem, an ingenious solution emerged from ancient China. During the Tang and Song dynasties, people began using paper money instead of relying purely on heavy metal coins. It was an absolute game changer. Paper money was significantly lighter and vastly easier to transport over long distances than dragging around huge chests of heavy coins. It fundamentally changed the speed and scale of human commerce forever. Section 5, the digital money era, abstracting value. Over time, money didn't stop evolving with paper, of course. It moved completely away from physical objects altogether. Just look at this sequence of modern financial transformations. First, banks centralized and secured our wealth. Then, credit cards came along and allowed us to spend money without physically holding it at all. And finally, digital payments completely transformed how humans exchange value, making transactions almost instantaneously anywhere across the globe.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how completely abstracted money has become. Today, money exists not only as coins and notes, but predominantly as abstract numbers stored inside computers and cell phones. Take a second to think about that. We have completely and totally abstracted money from those early days of hauling a sack of wheat to a fisherman just to get a shirt.
Section 6. The true meaning of money, trust, and value. As we wrap up this explainer, we can distill thousands of years of evolving technology, from shells to silver to paper to bytes, down to one single unchanging philosophy. So the crucial point is, every form of money comes from the exact same simple idea. It's about creating something that people trust and accept as a way to exchange value. Money fundamentally isn't metal, it isn't paper, and it really isn't computer code. It is, at its absolute core, simply human trust. Which leads us to our final thought. If money is truly just a reflection of our collective trust, what will we choose to trust next? As technology continues to advance at a breakneck speed, the way we exchange value is definitely going to keep evolving. Keep that question in the back of your mind as you watch the financial world shift around us. I really hope this explainer helped clarify exactly how we got from barter to bytes.